Flames. Talk about that game and what to expect from the Arizona Coyotes on today's episode of Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Robyn Leonio. That's Carl Pavlik on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We're going to thank everyone for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. It's a game day for the Arizona Coyotes. They are heading on over to Alberta, to the north side of the border for a little bit. They're up against the Calgary Flames today. It looks to be a 6 p.m. start because it's over there in the mountain daylight time. We don't do that. We don't do daylight, so we don't. But the Flames are tonight.
Yeah. Every time I hear Calgary, I think of the older wrestler Lance Storm back in the WCW. He would always talk about he's from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. He was born to wrestle and bred to win. And that's the only connection I had to Canada growing up outside of going to Niagara Falls. And, he's not wrong in the year 2022. The Calgary Flames are a good team, kind of. I have a lot of questions about them. They are the top team of a very weak Pacific Division this year.
Yeah, the Pacific Division to me is all sorts of whack.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that the Flames number 1, the Kings are 2, the Oilers are 3, and the Golden Knights are out of a playoff spot.
The Flames are not only number 1, they have 3 games in hand and have 5 points ahead of the Los Angeles Kings. And yet somehow in 2 of their last 3 games, they have lost to the San Jose Sharks and the Buffalo Sabres. They lost 1-0 in overtime to the Buffalo Sabres a week ago today. Like, that's just not something a number 1 seed should do.
Yeah, no. I mean, should we really be surprised, though? Because we knew the Pacific Division was going to be trash. We just thought the Golden Knights were going to be for sure number 1.
Yeah.
And they're not.
I mean, like, when you look at the Flames, they are very much the Flames that they've been for the last couple of years. They're a very top-heavy team. They have some phenomenal skilled players like Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, Eric Lindholm, or Elias Lindholm, apologies. Like, top players you expect to be at the top of the standings. Doesn't really seem to be too much beyond that. So, like, it does feel like the Flames are the right team for the right time to conquer the Pacific Division, whatever that's worth.
I mean, all I'm going to say about it is I think they're just taking advantage of how bad the Pacific Division is.
Yeah.
That's all it is, But like you said, they did lose to the Sharks.
They did lose.
And
they couldn't put up a single goal against the Buffalo Sabres. Like a 1-0 overtime win. How often do we really see those?
Very rarely. I don't think, if ever, have we seen that at all? No, we haven't seen that for the Coyotes. We've seen a 1-0 game.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an overtime game.
Yeah. And like if the Coyotes are scoring more than you, then that's a problem. That's not to say that the Flames are like low in the standing for like goals scored. They are not. They have 2 players already above 30. They have 2 at 29. So they definitely are a high offense team, but it definitely seems to be like a concentrated offense. If you can, stop the top 1.5, 2 lines, you could probably shut down the Flames, it looks like. And it's just a matter of like shutting down Johnny Gaudreau, which is like Yeah, you could probably win a Jack Adams if you could figure out a way to consistently do that.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm looking at just the top of the salary cap table, and I'm just looking at like, and matching all that up, and I'm just like, yeah, I think it for the most part what lines up
Yeah,
with how they're supposed to be.
yeah. It's it feels like if the Golden Knights were not like ridiculously injured to start this, and currently in
A
a cap hell
salary,
of their own making,
yeah.
like they should be at the top of this Pacific Division. And I don't really see another team that like shouldn't be up there with the Golden Knights, with the Flames. Like every team in the Pacific is just an insanely flawed team. And I mean, it's good for the Coyotes tanking purposes.
Yeah, I mean, because the Coyotes have more of a shot, like they have a more of a shot to get down and be at the bottom. I guess I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, I mean, like if the Coyotes were playing multiple games against the Sharks and the Ducks and the Canucks, like as opposed to all the games against the Wild and the Avalanche, I could see that potentially being a little bit different. Maybe they're up against maybe a little bit higher than Seattle, but that's not the case. They are at 44 points with the Montreal Canadiens sitting in the basement.
Which is funny though, because in the last power rankings released by a host of Locked On NHL, the Arizona Coyotes moved up to number 28 in the power rankings, and I'm like, excuse me, 28?
Power rankings are always kind of like delayed, and uh, I love seeing the ones where there's a written explanation because usually they'll account for that. They're like, yeah, sure, the Coyotes have been hot lately, but we don't expect them to really be consistent for that. It's kind of like people always talk about how the Oscars should be awarded like 3 years after the movie came out because you need some time. But yeah, I don't see why the Coyotes moved up in the rankings this week. I just find it funny that they lost 3 games in a row. And let's be fair, they're probably going to lose this one.
Yeah, they're probably gonna lose this one. The last time they played them, that was it a win?
No, I think it was a 4-2 loss. It was early last month, early February. Yeah, 4-2 loss.
Oh yeah, that's right, because it was a part of a back-to-back. The first game was against the Avalanche, and we were just like, "Oh my God, they got some momentum. They got a big win against the Avalanche. Let's see if they can carry against the Flames, who aren't as good."
Yeah.
And they didn't.
They
So
did not. Which it just kind of like lends some evidence to maybe the Coyotes are just designed to stack up well against the Avalanche this season. And moving forward, that'd be probably a good thing. Like you should match up well against your division rivals.
absolutely, we're going to talk more about this matchup in just a moment. We got a lot to get to in discussing Arizona Coyotes versus Calgary Flames tonight at 6 p.m. local time. So we are going to discuss that. But first, a quick word from Carl.
So I have a message from our friends at Built Bar, and that's: have you tried the Puffs? If not, you're missing out on one of the best tasting Built Bars. The Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, even the Puffs. They have all kinds of different flavors. You can get the yummy cinnamony churro, you can get the coconut marshmallow, you can get my favorite, the banana cream pie. Also delicious. You're going to find one that'll be your new favorite. Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which typically has about 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. What I want you to do is go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. You're going to be glad you did.
So back here on Locked On Coyotes, once again, Robyn Leonio and Carl Pavlik. We're discussing Arizona Coyotes versus Calgary Flames. That game is set for 6 p.m. Arizona time tonight. Let's get into the more of the matchup as we get ready for it. No goalie info yet, officially, but
I think Craig Morgan said Vamelka is going to get the starts for all three, and Kozhinash is going to be riding backup.
yeah, that's what I was gonna,
Ooh.
somewhat think of, because Kozhinash is out as emergency because Sateri is not cleared from immigration yet.
Yeah.
So there's still some stuff to be done. So, and obviously Vejmelka is Vejmelka. He can get it done. We have no worry about that.
Yeah. Although a back-to-back against Winnipeg and Edmonton on Sunday and Monday, that's going to be kind of tough. I was kind of wondering about that because I do remember reports of the immigration, which you always kind of see with players coming overseas. Because the Coyotes are on an all-Canada road trip, I did wonder if that would make things easier because he was originally going to go to Toronto. And then the Coyotes claimed him, so he's going to New York. I don't think either of us know too much about the immigration laws that go into waiver wire pickups or contracts, but I thought that may make some difference, but at this time doesn't look like it would.
Yeah, no, I think because in regards to that, because there still has to be like employment paperwork based off of that.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like, oh, it's like you're here in this country because you got to work, and and even though they're in Canada, the Arizona Coyotes are a American team.
Yeah. And like I said, I think in yesterday's episode, or prior to this week, like there's a lot going on with immigration right now, and like checking like passports and stuff. I'm sure a professional goalie is kind of like low priority in some of the stuff that those offices are doing. There's a lot of world crises going on right now. It is the reason why was put on waivers because the KHL
Is in
stop.
shambles.
Yeah. There's issues with the KHL right now. Understandable. So like it's all kind of seems like it could all be like trickling down. And like I said at the top, neither of us really know too much about the immigration laws for waiver pickups. That's not the most common scenario.
No, it is not. So Karove Melka, the likely goaltender, very likely goaltender for tonight and for the rest of this road trip. Jacob Markstrom on the other side for Calgary is the likely. It says unconfirmed on Daily Faceoff, but let's be real. Like, look at the Calgary Flames. Who's the other guy? Some 24-year-old Daniel Vladar.
Yeah. Vladar's had 16 games this season, only 14 starts compared to Markstrom's 49. And I do think we're kind of past the days where teams are taking the Coyotes less seriously. We definitely had that for a while. I think it definitely contributed to some of the bigger wins. But yeah, if you've seen what the Coyotes have done this month, you're like not going to take too many chances. You're not going to fall for the trap, as we saw many other teams do earlier this month.
Absolutely. So that'll make things interesting. It'll make definitely more of a challenge for the Arizona Coyotes because, as we both said, this is probably a game they're not going to win. They're going to win They're going to lose their what now, fourth straight game, probably.
That's what I'm thinking.
But let's be real though. This month was supposed to be a difficult month, and somehow the first half was like filled with lots of fireworks.
Yeah, a couple of 8 and 9 goal games. It really goes to what we have said is the Coyotes' problem this entire year: consistency. And this is just an extension of that. The Coyotes were hot in the beginning of the year. They're scoring hot in the beginning of the month, scoring all the goals. Starting to dry up. They can't get beyond 2 for their last 3 games. They were held to 1 against Pittsburgh, and the team really just needs to find a way to do everything more consistently.
Yet I think that's a common discussion, consistency with the Arizona Coyotes, and I
Yeah,
think, and I'm like, and it makes more sense this year because it's still the first year of a new regime. But I still think it's just there's a common denominator here, and it's just freaking the fact that they're just not going to be consistent. And I think it's the youth, right?
it,
Like they still have a lot to learn.
it's definitely the youth, and we're seeing it definitely more this year. Just a lack of skill, because I do think that the truly skilled players, they can also be inconsistent. They can be streakier, or they could be just as streaky, but they find ways to kind of like break that and like get points where they can, or really just like have like a good effort in like an individual shift and try and do that. It's the difference that we saw, Lawson Krause last year looking very snake bitten versus Lawson Krause this year. That extra year, he's another year older. He's advanced his game that much more. He's finding ways to kind of counter that. So I do think that the Coyotes will hopefully find more consistency as they get better players. It is always potentially a coaching concern, just because everything is a combination of players and coaching. So I hope that we see the issues start to decrease a little bit more, but we haven't seen enough of Bear's system really to see like, oh, this is going to be something that consistently does well.
But it's grown
It,
definitely from the
it
beginning of the
has.
year. So
Yeah, it absolutely has. Like, it's all kind of like positive signs. I have like no real concerns about that yet, but I never want to say like, oh, coaching is definitely not an issue, when like 3 years from now we could be saying like, "Yeah, coaching is an issue. Like these problems have not gone away yet, and I don't think that is going to be the problem. Like I said, everything looks good so far, but I definitely think it's a potential concern.
I'm trying to see on this list. No former Coyotes, right?
Uh, I was looking. Uh, Michael Stone, is he injured?
He's listed under the 7 active defensemen.
Because he's limited to 4 games. Uh,
So probably.
yeah. Former Coyote Michael Stone, um, hasn't played since March 13th. So, yeah. Who knows what's going on with him? But he has also seen diminishing ice time throughout his time in Calgary.
Yeah, and again, he's the 7th of listed active defensemen, and it's probably likely the other 6 that are freaking running the game for Calgary.
Yeah. So no former Coyotes, which is surprising because their GM is the former assistant GM of the Coyotes.
That's true. But I think that'll make things interesting because again, you usually look at games with a lot of former Coyotes, and it's like, oh, let's see if this person has a good game. But
Yeah.
At the same time, you look at the other things you mentioned. The former assistant GM um, of the Coyotes is GMing the Flames. You have the Flames head coach who was the head coach of a rival, a pretty big rival. So Coyotes fans probably hate him the guts. A lot of people hate this guy's guts.
Yeah. I try too hard not to hate coaches. But yeah,
Well, that's you. We're talking like there's a lot of fans out there
who do
you
not like Daryl Sutter.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I would not mind seeing Sutter's team lose. I will say that. But it's like, even though he has been like connected to Coyotes rivals, probably the biggest Coyotes rival, the Los Angeles Kings. I don't really see too much of it. I'm not necessarily sure how great a coach I think he is. Like, I think the Kings definitely played really well. But like I said, I think the Flames this year are a okay team in a shitty division. So I don't know how much credit I want to give them.
Very true. Very, very true. We still got more to get to, though, on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We're going to get to our picks of the game. We're going to talk about who we think is going to win, how we think is the game is going to go based off points spread and all of that. But first, I want to tell you guys about BetOnline. It's that time of year, again, as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And speaking of BetOnline, or speaking of the college basketball tournament, if you're like me, you're probably upset right now.
Yeah, because your inferior school lost. I get you.
Hey, ASU didn't even make the tournament, so
Yeah, but it's basketball. No one cares.
uh,
Fine, it's
anyways.
basketball. And most people care. Sports hipsters that like hockey, you're fine. It's college basketball.
Fine. Anyways, though, speaking of BetOnline, it is time for our BetOnline picks of the game.
Yep.
Because this game is going to be interesting. As we mentioned, we both kind of agreed earlier on that the Coyotes are not probably going to win this game. Coyotes 1.5 underdogs at plus 130, plus 326 if you want to take the money line for them. Total points set at 6 points.
So I was thinking about this game as I was walking back from the store with my Monster Energy drink because I'm in my caffeine addiction. And I am going to go 3-1 Calgary. I think the Flames have not done especially well lately. The Coyotes have not done well, especially lately. So this seems like it should be a low scoring affair. Also, just looking at Markstrom's numbers, like just really good. I do not see the Coyotes getting too many.
A goaltending battle between Vejmelka and Markstrom. I can see this one happen. I can make it interesting.
Yeah, I could definitely see that too. But we have seen that like Vejmelka can do a lot for his team, but he
can
is
only
going
do
to.
so much.
He can only do so much, and he's going to be up against some tough competition.
That said, though, I'm gonna take the points for Arizona, but I'm not gonna have them win. I'm not gonna have them win, and I'm going under.
Under.
I'm gonna say my score is gonna be 3-2 Flames.
Gotcha. So a little bit more than I had, which is definitely, I would say, a good way to go. I think we're both kind of on the same page in terms of what Calgary's offense is going to do. But I mean, like I said at the first segment, the Flames lost 1-0 to the Buffalo Sabres in overtime a week ago today.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, I'd say the smart money is probably on taking the under. And then if it does get to overtime, which I think it could, like that's potentially like slightly better than a coin flip. So who really knows for this one?
So your betting picks are the same as mine, under and take the points. Because if you're going to overtime, then
Oh well, no, I said 3-1 originally. Like I'm saying potential overtime as something that could be there and as something that
fair.
Yeah, they've done. But I still think I don't think the Coyotes can push this one to overtime.
Okay, so 3-1 is your score, but we both have going it under because
Going it under, yes.
That'll be an interesting one, right? I mean, it's interesting because the last few games for the Coyotes have all been over. I think we've all been like, oh, over. I think it's been a while.
Was Seattle? Because I think was Seattle 6?
Yes, and it ended at 6 exactly, which was so that's a push.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if you look at it, like Seattle scored 4, San Jose scored 4, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh had 3, the Coyotes had 1. Like the Coyotes have not been contributing much offense to these games. Like it's not like when they faced the Ottawa Senators and they scored 8. Like this team just doesn't look like that team anymore. They seem to be a little bit less engaged. I don't know. Like watching the Seattle game, I was just very disappointed by that third period.
Maybe they remembered they're supposed to be rebuilding this year.
It could be. And we talked about like what's going to happen like after the trade deadline, because there is always that thing with like, that could change like a locker room atmosphere. We now have Phil Kessel, who's stuck on a team that he doesn't want to play for another 19 games, 18 games. So I don't know what's going on. I would like to see the Coyotes kind of like snap out of it and have a good performance, but uh, just the last 3 games haven't given me much hope.
No, it will be. I mean, and again, I'm an advocate for the shame sweepstakes. So
It never works though if you try too hard. It's like a watch pot. You can't watch it too much. It's never gonna boil.
I don't know. Like, part of me is also under the um, belief of manifesting, right? Speaking it into existence. If we keep
Sure.
talking about it, it's gonna happen.
Yeah. If that is your belief, I am very willing to say that could potentially happen. Uh, I am just of the mindset that there is nothing that I can do that will influence the Coyotes in really any way.
Hey,
Like
Carl,
certainly
if the
not the ice.
content boys can manifest the Sharks getting William Eklund, we can manifest the Coyotes getting Shane Wright.
I think that's 2 very different things, though. Like
Is
it.
it though? Is it
Yes.
though?
Yes, because they are what manifesting other things. We are manifesting a lottery machine. That's there's the cold science of however the NHL runs its lottery now that we have to worry about.
Yeah, but we can still manifest. It doesn't hurt.
Alright. Uh, Either way, though, neither of us have much hope for this game, and we're already focused on kind of the next ones. This is going to be a not fun road trip, I think, for the Coyotes.
No, it won't be because they got this game, then they got the Jets, and then the Oilers. Like they had to go from Alberta to Manitoba and back to Alberta. It's like what? Why? But
And all in the course of 4 days. That's going to be tough.
it is going to be tough. But that is going to be our show. You can take whatever our betting advice as you wish. We actually, if you decide to bet, once again, if you are someone who does, please gamble responsibly. But that's it for today's show. If we hope you guys enjoyed what you heard. If you did, don't forget to leave a review, to like and comment and subscribe if you're yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, on Instagram at LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. Interact with us, ask us a question. Also, I'm personally at Robyn Leonio. Carl Pavlik is at Carl Pavlik FFH. You can interact with us, ask us a question. We can answer them right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.